He makes it sound like that violence was only coming from the Palestinians. He doesn't mention the uptick of violence coming from ultra-far-right, ultra-nationalist Zionists. He doesn't mention that at all. On a scale from 1 to 10, how wrong is Ben than the average person who covers it? This is the issue. Ben should just say, like, what about every single Arab state that treated Jewish people as second-class citizens in some way or another throughout the entirety of the Middle East? Why would I believe that Arabs can live with Jews peacefully when they haven't done it in Arab-majority states? Why would I expect that to change for Israel? And then the Arab response would be, those Jews did live peacefully in those states. It wasn't unpeaceful until Israel provoked every Arab state in the Middle East by expelling over 700,000 Arab Palestinians from their lands, which understandably caused tensions to rise in all those other Arab countries. But prior to that, they'd been doing okay, I think. Counter to that would be, well, why would you hold Jewish people in other countries responsible for Israeli citizens in another country? Because why should they all be held accountable just because the Israeli people happen to be Jews, unless there is some actual anti-Semitism involved? Okay, yeah, that's a wildly crazy statement. I don't know what we're gonna do after. I feel like we can fight. I feel like I can fight both sides of all of this because there's just so much horrible. I was rewatching some of this last night because I was curious, like how current or like how much of this video could I theoretically go through with the knowledge that I have so far. There are a couple things that he says here that he actually just gets completely wrong.
This and all of this. Israel then proceeds to give up like all of it.
Oh, that statement. Oh, I don't know how I got there immediately. This idea that Israel captured the entire Sinai, and then they proceed to give up like all of it. No, they don't. I'm sorry. They hold onto the West Bank, they hold on to the Golan Heights, and they hold onto the Sinai so hard that that's part of the provocation for the Yom Kippur War was literally trying to take it back. There's a lot of stuff he says in here that is, some of it is just wrong. Now, I don't know if he's skipping ahead like 15 years later. He's like, well, they technically do a peace process to give it back after another war, blah, blah, blah. There's a couple things that he just gets wrong in here. And there's also a couple things that the way that he says them, like, so for instance, after the signing of the, I think it was the Oslo Accords. He's like, and then after the Oslo Accords are signed, like violence increases or whatever. And he makes it sound like it's the Palestinians, but he never mentions all of the Israeli violence. Or he never mentions, for instance, that Hebron massacre at the one place. He makes it sound like it's only Palestinians that are ever committing violence. I don't remember where does the Oslo Accords here. Sorry. The more that I learn about this, the more I listen to other people talk about it, the more like super I get when I hear people like, it's got to be intentional.
If young Metro don't trust you, I'm gonna shoot you. Beautiful morning.
Better than the offer that Barak gave in 2000. He offers everything. He offers Judea and Samaria.
Oh.
He says, we're going to keep some of the big Israeli settlements that exist here, but we're going to...
His summary here of them offering everything for the Camp David summit. They did offer a lot. They didn't offer everything, though. That's not true, right? All of the airspace would be exclusively controlled by Israel. There would be some pretty major settlements that are still... He talks about it here. The West Bank would be arguably split in half because of the controlled role from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea. That's not true. Yeah. So much of everything that he says is like...
After Israel withdraws from Gaza, remember, Israel's not in control of anything here. Immediately rushed in and burned everything. They just turned them over to the Palestinians. Gaza Strip. These are places people have lived for decades. Ariel Sharon, who's one of the great hawks in why it's correct, he wrote his entire control over the Gaza Strip, right? A Palestinian state, boom, done. Arafat does not even negotiate control down flat. He offered that Israel has. Ehud Barak offered complete control over the picture.
Fuck, hold on. There was a statement here. I'm sorry. At
this point, and the Prime Minister of Israel is now a guy named Ehud Barak. And Ehud Barak is a real dove. Ehud Barak wants to make as many concessions as humanly possible.
Oh, and it's also really funny that when Shapiro talks about anybody willing to work with Palestinians, he always speaks with such derision. He's like, they're weak, they're doves, right? I didn't know there was an insult term on the opposite of hawk. I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know that was but I guess it is. I've just never heard the term before.
Rule yourselves. Like, just stop bothering us. Separate off or to preside over these areas. Israel is not interested in governing millions of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip or in Judea and Samaria. The last thing they want to do is have their soldiers wandering around these dangerous areas or to preside over these areas. All they want, and all Israel's ever wanted, is to separate off from these particular areas and say, listen, you guys rule yourselves. Like, just stop bothering us, please. Okay, and you'll see that this is the continued pattern. 2000, Israel engages in the Camp David negotiation.
Also, I don't know if he ever, I don't think in this whole video, I don't know if he ever mentions settlers ever. I don't know if he ever mentions them a single time. Or if he did, I just didn't hear him ever bring them up. And I was like, bro.
Starts negotiating with the Palestine Liberation Organization, which is a really weird shift considering the Yasser Arafat is a master terrorist responsible for tons of murders on his hands. He had the government of the State of Israel starts negotiating from 1987 to 1991. By this time, Yitzhak Rabin has taken over as Prime Minister of Israel, and pushed by George H.W. Bush, the government of the State of Israel starts negotiating with the Palestine Liberation Organization, which is a really weird shift considering the Yasser Arafat is a master terrorist responsible for tons of murders on his hands. He at this point has been expelled all the way to Tunis, right? He's not even in the picture. And Israel brings him out of retirement basically and says, why don't we negotiate with you? And maybe you can make all of this stop. So in 1993, they signed the Oslo Accords. And that is where you get Bill Clinton presiding over one of the least successful international negotiations in the history of international politics. The Oslo Accords have been a complete and utter failure. That ends with Yitzhak Rabin, who's this historic general who's been Prime Minister of Israel a couple of times by this point, shaking hands with a mass murdering terrorist, Yasser Arafat. And this was going to initiate a new period of health and accord, and there was going to be peace. All that the PLO had to do was acknowledge that Israel existed and had a right to exist, stop educating their children in terrorism, and cease the violence. They couldn't do any of those things, right? So none of that happened. Instead, there's an uptick in violence, pretty dramatic uptick in violence after the Oslo Accords.
Notice how he says that so smoothly. The PLO said that there would be no violence, and guess what? There was a massive uptick in violence, right? Notice how he doesn't mention this, that on the after the Oslo Accords, that I'm pretty sure that one of the largest things of violence was that Goldstein guy walking into the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron and throwing grenades in and shooting like 100 plus people and killing almost 30 of them, right? He makes it sound like that violence was only coming from the Palestinians. He doesn't mention the uptick of violence coming from ultra-far-right, ultra-nationalist Zionists. He doesn't mention that at all. When Sadat, when the Egyptian leader was executed for signing or assassinated, when he was assassinated for signing the peace agreement with Israel, Ben Shapiro brings that up. He's like, oh, he signed a peace deal with Israel, and then he got assassinated. He doesn't bring up that Rabin was also assassinated by far-right Zionist people who were mad at the Oslo Accords. He doesn't bring that up. Sorry. I watched through this again last night. I was like, on a scale from 1 to 10, how wrong has Ben than the average person who covers it? This is the issue. For the most part, his video is mostly factual. But it doesn't... When you omit like half the story, you're not really, you're getting a bunch of true facts, but you're not getting a true story, right? Do you remember when I said a long time ago, I don't know if you guys even agree with me or not on this one. I think my community might have been mostly against me on this. I'm not sure. We argued about WikiLeaks and the leaks of the Democratic Party. And I made this statement at the time when I debated Bernie Bros and Trumples. I made the statement that leaks from one side is worse than leaks from no side. I'd rather have no leaks than just selective leaks, because selective leaks are giving you a worse story than no leaks, right? Because if you have no leaks, you don't really know what anybody's up to. They might be doing some weird shit. They might be doing some weird shit. Who the fuck knows, okay? Not sure. But when you only get leaks from one side, the assumption is those people are really bad. I didn't get any leaks of those people. Those people must be pretty good. And that is incredibly damaging. Having leaks from only one side only serves to create a false story in your mind. Even if the facts are real, the narrative is fabricated because you don't have all the facts. It's very, very, very hard for people to understand that. And it's very frustrating when people don't, because, yeah. What do you think of the Sam Harris take? Let me see real quick about this.
One thing is obvious. Israel, for decades, if it had wanted to perpetrate a genocide against the Palestinians, could have done that on any given day, right? It would have been trivial. Tomorrow, they could kill everyone in Gaza if they wanted. They obviously haven't wanted that. They obviously don't want to do that now.
This is kind of sort of true. Not really, though, because in the past, Israel needed support from the United States and somewhat from the international community, at least from 67 onwards. There's no way Israel could have genocided the Palestinians. They would have never gotten support from the United States. They would have lost all support from the international community. The Soviet Union and the entire Arab League would have had an insane mandate to go into Israel and destroy the entire country. It would have been unbelievable. You could argue that in the early founding of Israel, they could have been more crazy or whatever, but I don't know. It would have galvanized support from the Arab nations a lot more against them. So I'm not sure.
Reverse that balance of power and ask, what would Hamas do? What would jihadist organizations anywhere do? They would kill all the Jews. And they have told us that ad nauseum.
This is probably true. This is probably true.
Founding charter of Hamas said that explicitly. It looked forward to a time where Quranic prophecy would be real.
Because more of the Palestinian radical, I say radical, but pretty popular, is the idea that all of the land belongs to them anyway. So they've got a moral mandate to kick all the Israelis off the land.
When the earth itself would cry out against the Jews, where the rocks and
How much of this did we watch before? I know we watched some of this before, but
the trees would say, "Oh, Muslim, there's a Jew behind me, come kill him," right?
Except for one tree.
Except the one tree, yes, yeah, that's right. So the difference in intention, while people think intention is this abstraction, intention is the software that everyone is running. Intention is the best predictor of what people will do if they're given an opportunity to do it, right? If they have the power to do it, if they have the technology to do it. What will a jihadist organization do if it gets nuclear weapons? What will a jihadist organization do if it gets a viable bioweapon, right? We know the answers to these questions. These people have been telling us this for as long as I've been alive, and in isolated cases, absolutely proven to a moral certainty their commitment to nihilism and massacre. I mean, the Islamic State, if you knew the details of what was happening in the Islamic
a little bit. Keep in mind, though, that Israel also has nuclear weapons and has taken everybody else out with them if they feel like they're under threat as well, right?
State, and couldn't understand that these people mean what they say and believe what they say they believe, then you're living on another planet. So anyone who's surprised, the only surprise here is that there was an assumption, and a historically understandable assumption, that Hamas was not as extreme.
Okay. Do you think there is a moral obligation of an occupying force to de-radicalize and rebuild the region of a land that is occupied after war? Maybe, but the occupation is iffy. I'm not sure, yeah. I do agree that if Palestinians were more peaceful... let me catch up on the modern history and I'll make a stronger statement about that. When you do acts of terrorism, when you blow people up and you do bad shit, the world notices. I think there actually is... for a while, I was a little black-pilled on international affairs, but I think it was actually just due to a lack of education on the topic. I think there is a moral accounting in the world. I think that countries do, at least in like the 1920s and onward. Once we move past like cringe, like kings and monarchs and shit. Okay, that cringy shit in Europe. Why did it take you guys so long to get away from that shit? God, America is so cool. I'm so liberally biased here. I'm sorry that we in 1776 decided to do some awesome shit with our democracy. Okay, I say that was awesome, but then we also had probably the largest accounting of chattel slavery in all of the world history, and we didn't let women vote for a while. So okay, got our pros and our cons. All right, pros and cons. Monarchs have advantages. They provide stability. Sure. Yeah. I think moral authority is actually really important, and I think you probably need to fight for moral authority to have international support for conflicts. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Where are we at? The UK is a monarchy and ended slavery before you. Yeah, I think the United States had a unique... the most chattel slavery was done by Portugal. Don't let America be shamed into taking that title. I'd have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure America, I think, was pretty unique in its engagement with slavery, I think. This is my last question, I swear to God. Do you think 700,000 Palestinians were evicted by Israel in 48? Because from everything I've read, 90% of displaced Palestinians were the result of invading armies and inter-Arab conflicts. So that displacement is going to be hotly contested, okay? Here are the facts, okay? Israel declared independence in 48. When they declared independence, all of the neighboring Arab countries tried to attack them. Israel fought off. They had a larger army than all of them combined. Israel fought off those attackers, and as they moved out and established their borders, they expelled all of the Arab Palestinians essentially on those lands. Now, the debate is whether or not Israel always wanted to expel those Arabs, and people that argue in favor of that will look to citations or quotes from early leaders or early Zionists and say, well, Israel always wanted to rule these lands on their own, or blah, blah, blah. They'll look at something called Plan Dalit, which was an explicit plan to expel Arab Palestinians from their lands. And then arguments on the other side are going to be, well, Israel initially accepted a partition plan in 47 that would have had them living peacefully alongside Arabs. In their initial declaration, they said that they would work to build a state with Arab Palestinians, and Plan Dalit wasn't actually enacted until after all of the invading Arab armies. there's probably going to be historians that have written entire books literally on just this like 5-year time period, right? From like 44, I think is when the Jewish revolt started, from like 44 to 48, the Al-Nakba. There's going to be whole people that have written so much more on this than I've read on everything about this so far, on just that one topic, okay? So, yeah, okay. I don't know if there's an easy or clear answer there right now, but okay. Don't care. Moving forward. Okay. Hi, what's up, buddy?
Hey, man, what's up? Just jumped in another research stream today.
Yeah, I'm on meth-fueled knowledge acquisition.
A debate or something?
No, Palestine, Israel comes up all the fucking time, and so many people give so many bad takes on this. I've decided to just learn the whole fucking conflict because I'm just gonna fucking do it, and then I can fight against all the stupid historical takes that I hear for all this.
The amount of terrorism defense I've seen the last 2 weeks, I have to like sign off everything, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
The most insane shit. Oh.
But what's up?
Nothing much, dude. I just felt kind of bad because I missed your kick and keep stuff, so I just wanted to come in and just say hi. Yeah.
Oh. Well, hi. I love you, buddy.
No, I had a family emergency just crop up, so that got sorted out. But yeah, kind of missed the kick and keep. I had to like tell Confronts about it and everything. I was like, I felt bad.
Oh.
But you know.
Yeah, you're fine. It happens. It's all good.
Yeah. No, but this whole Israel-Palestine stuff is super duper wild. I've seen so many terrible takes being sent around by like Muslim content creators, like that one girl Frogan or whatever. I had to like unfollow her and everything because it was just annoying. Like I have family and friends. Like one of my closest friends, he's Canadian, but he's Israeli as well too. So like his family members, they just close friends, they just passed away in the IDF too. Yeah, and just seeing people like. I don't like what the IDF does as an administration, like obviously, but the amount of people that didn't even know that Israel was like a mandatory conscription is so baffling. It's like these people have all this research like tools available, like the internet, Wikipedia, everything, sources, and they still can't confirm the most basic shit. Yeah, it's like Hamas has always been this terror organization, and it's like if we're gonna agree with a terror organization, it's like what the fuck. Like what happened? It's like agreeing with the Taliban or agreeing with Al Qaeda or ISIS. It's like what the fuck, dude? Yeah, I think that it's just a really good conflict for you to project whatever your personal issues are, right? Like left versus right, capitalism versus socialism, second world versus first world during the Cold War, religious conflict, imperialism and colonialism versus native peoples, brown versus white. It's just a really good conflict that you can take any side on based on like how you view through your lens, the world, and then you can project whatever truths you want based on that. Yeah, like when you've got people marching as like queers for Hamas, that's like the funniest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Well, yeah, considering they'd be thrown over a rooftop any day if they were there. No, it's wild because like the normal take should have been like, hey, we don't like Hamas or the IDF, and maybe civilians dying on both sides is just not a thing we should have. But yeah, probably. It really feels like it just feels like everyone that I like listen to on the internet, it's like either they have like this straight hatred of like brown skinned people, or it's just like Jews or something. It's like one or the other. Sure. And it's like so obvious that like this conflict is just a thinly veiled like vehicle to just drive that level of hate for one side or the other. I don't know, but I don't know what the fix to this stuff is, man. This conflict has been going on fucking for longer than we've been alive and shit, even our fucking parents. So no, who knows, man. Hopefully the best, but yeah. Other than that, man, it's what else has been happening with you other than researching Israel-Palestine? This is it. Yeah, just this for days and days and days. So, yeah. Fuck it. All right, man. I'll probably hit you up later. But yeah, next kick and keep them totally down. I just felt bad about it, so I wanted to come in and just say, hi. You're good. No worries. I love you, buddy. All right, man. Love you, man. Take care. It's no coincidence that the poster child for Israel's war campaign is a conventionally attractive white female, especially given the type of photos people choose to represent her. It's like her dancing at a party. I mean, she is pretty conventionally attractive, but I mean, yeah, people are going to identify probably with like pretty people or people that look like them or whatever. That's just like this isn't like Israel or about war, blah, blah, blah. That's just like normal. That's like a normal human thing. It's sad, but it's true. People tend to identify with like innocent, pretty women or whatever, or children over like other types of people. A really good example of this is
I believe the Reagan administration, was it his wife too? They like denied that AIDS was a real thing. I think nobody in the United States, or the thing that drove most people in the US to care about AIDS, it wasn't evil, immoral gay people having sex and musicians and blah, blah, blah. It was when the little kid got HIV via a blood transfusion, right? This Ryan White kid. And it was only when that happened, I don't want to say only when that happened, but I'm pretty sure when that happened, I think there began to be a major shift in the United States. You could argue maybe this was coming anyways or whatever, but I think this was a huge push for when the US started to take HIV more seriously, because it was like a sad little kid. You're like, oh, kid. Now, is that right? Is it okay? Like, probably not. It's not good, right? We should be empathetic towards more kinds of people, but it's not like this isn't a pretty girl. It's not like this isn't like exceptional, like, oh my God, Israel's engaging some crazy propaganda or whatever, right? But I mean, like, yeah, if you didn't want her to be a poster child for this, you probably shouldn't have like shot her in the back of the head, thrown her in the back of a truck with her limbs all broken and up, and had people spitting on her body while you drive her around a town where the innocent children of Gaza were all cheering and whooping and hollering in celebration of her body being paraded. Like, I mean, Jesus, if anybody made this person a poster child of this conflict, it was Hamas, not Israel or the IDF. Like, Jesus, come on. Like, what? Like, Jesus. There's a reason why nobody knows where bin Laden's body is, okay? There's a reason why we scuttled that shit in the middle of the ocean or shipped it to some fucking U.S. cryo facility so that people couldn't turn it into some holy martyrdom site. Like, this is so stupid. Also, I'm sorry, now that I'm reading this, it's triggering me even more. I'm sorry, this tweet is triggering the out of me. It's so stupid, okay? Another reason why this girl is being used as quote-unquote propaganda or whatever, which she is, it's fine. It's fine to say that, right? It's kind of propaganda. It's not just because she's white and attractive. It's also because, one, she's a dual citizen. I believe she was a citizen of Germany. Two, she's young, okay? And three, she doesn't fit the mold for like classic colonial person. She seems like a hippie, like go-lovey peace person. What are these dreadlocks or dread ends or something, right? Now, her being white, which I think she's white, although actually now that I'm looking at her, now I'm not 100% sure, but I think she is. But like, she probably is. But like, yeah, I don't think it's just because she's a white. It's like, oh, modern white woman. It's probably the combination of everything that she is, right? Which seems to be like young, hippie, party person going to festivals and shit. Is a dual citizen, number one. And number two, the fact that that I mentioned, this is what I mentioned before, the fact that Hamas made such a disgusting example out of her, right? Those are the two things that are driving this, more than it just being a random pretty white woman. Yeah. But, okay. Something that's important to note, too, is every single thing that I'm saying about how you can tell Israel and Palestine historically from one perspective or another, I bet that the people in Israel and the people in Palestine probably have the same issue, where I bet there's probably some massacres or attacks that I could bring up to Israeli citizens that would be like, ooh, I didn't know that happened in the West Bank. I didn't know we did that in the Gaza Strip. I didn't know that particular thing happened, because they've only heard certain pieces of information, and I bet there are Palestinians that also aren't aware of certain pieces of information too. I'm sure that like this type of singular telling of one side or another. Now, I'm sure the average Israeli citizen, the average Palestinian person probably knows more than the people in the West, of course. But I bet even over here, I bet there's like a selective telling effect on both sides for different people, I bet.
I think Netanyahu, even in some ways, benefits from this association with the rabble-rousers on the right.
I don't know if they'll bring it up in this frontline thing, but remember, Rabin was Netanyahu was so adamantly anti-Rabin that he would take part in protests, two of which he was marching at the front of a procession with a black coffin. You know, I don't know if he wanted him to die whatnot. But like this happened literally months before Rabin was actually assassinated by a far-right, anti-Oslo Accords, like ultra-Zionist person, Israeli citizen, Jewish person.
The country.
That might have been at the very start. Maybe they showed pictures of that, but yeah.
The country's political system was superheated. It was like a car riding on a highway that had no water left in the radiator. And you could look at the temperature gauge, and it's all the way in hot.
Is Netanyahu just Putin if he had Trumplers? I haven't gotten deep enough yet into his administration yet to really know, but he seems like not that good of a guy, is my feeling. But then also keep in mind his background is his brother was killed by, was it full brother or half brother? Was killed by Palestinian terrorists, right? And Netanyahu himself was part of, the special forces that did ops against Palestinian terrorists, the Black September organization. So, I mean, that's his background. That's where he's coming from, unfortunately. Destiny, you were very wrong. Terror attacks is what elects right-wing governments in Israel, not so much external threats. You've missed a few major ones. Also what elected current coalition. No, I'm right. Okay. I don't expect an average citizen, to understand or to put aside their feelings, but the politicians should be able to, right? Because the only way this cycle of shit breaks is for historic leaders to come out and attempt to make things different. Right? That's the only. Your take on terrorism is super naive? No, I'm coming at this from like a leadership politician standpoint, not a retarded Twitter user or civilian standpoint, right? Who sees one terror attack and wants to destroy the whole world. Okay, civilians are stupid. All right, it's supposed to be leaders that guide us to better places. Okay, leaders guiding us is what gets us things like the Egypt and Israeli peace treaty, right? Okay, civilians leading us is what happens when after 9/11 we go to war with Iraq and Afghanistan. Okay, that's the difference between like having actual leaders and civilians driving us into places out of fear. Okay. You're wrong. I'm telling you what you're talking about. What ought to be. I'm telling you what happens in practice. I understand what happens in practice. Obviously, this is what happens in practice. But I'm saying that there have to be better. I don't know why I'm repeating myself. I don't. If you just don't understand what I'm saying, I don't know what to say. Never mind. I don't need to repeat myself again. Are you implying Iraq and Afghanistan were unjust or wrong? I'm saying that Iraq and Afghanistan were emotional responses by civilian populations, okay? Those were conflicts where we needed a strong leader, and we didn't have strong leadership. We had weak leadership. That's why Iraq and Afghanistan happened. Without 9/11, Iraq and Afghanistan never happened. There is no Iraq and Afghanistan without 9/11. And 9/11 doesn't justify Iraq, it barely justifies Afghanistan, okay? Those were emotional, civilian, politically led conflicts. They weren't conflicts led by strong leadership in Washington.
We're talking. It's just the two of us. And there's a demonstration outside.
Afghanistan was a NATO Article 5. I don't think you can compare it to Iraq. Hold on. Wasn't that a NATO Article 5 triggered by Turkey, though? I mean, I'm saying that. That's why I said I will say Afghanistan is more justifiable because of Al-Qaeda and everything in Iraq. Sure, okay, but 20-year occupation, all that shit, no, okay. Iraq would maybe happen at some point. Iraq hawks were a big part of the R coalition. That's fine, but again, okay, it is essential that you have moral authority for coalition building when you go into these conflicts, okay? The first Gulf War, from everything I understand about it, was an incredibly good war. I was incredibly righteous, okay? We had so much moral authority going into there, okay? The defense of the Kurdish people, the defense of the nation of Kuwait, okay? We had so much moral authority going into that. The second, the Iraq war and the indefinite occupation afterwards is insane, unhinged, okay? Where does the U.S. play in this? Why does the U.S. have an interest in Israel in the first place? Is supporting Israel bad for Biden in 2024? We'll get there in the last 20 years, or in the next 20 years. The role that the United States has played in Israel existing is so much smaller than I ever thought. I don't know if because I've heard right-wingers talk about how important Israel is, or I hear Nazis talk about it, but the role that the U.S. plays in like the existence of Israel is so much smaller than I thought it ever was. I will say that's probably one of the hugest takeaways that I've had coming out of like all of this historically. I thought, and I've said this before, I probably said it, I think even within this year, that like Israel literally exists at the behest of the United States and it's the only reason, blah, blah, blah. That's just so not true. It's so unbelievably not true.
Rabin's widow blamed Netanyahu for contributing to her husband's death.
The assassination of Yitzhak Rabin has also produced shock in the Palestinian community.
And said so on worldwide television.
Your husband pointed the finger at Mr. Netanyahu and said, you must stop this incitement.
Yeah.
To what extent do you blame Mr. Netanyahu and the Likud for what has happened?
I do blame them. In a rally in Kikar Tzion in Jerusalem that showed him in the uniform of a Nazi. So Mr. Bibi Netanyahu, now he can say from here to eternity that he didn't support it and didn't agree with it, but he was there and he didn't stop it.
Oh, is that what Netanyahu says now, that he didn't agree with it and he didn't support it?
Whose close advisor at the time vehemently disagrees.
The attempt to pin on him the murder of the Prime Minister is a cheap political propaganda trick that was taken by his political opponents, mostly from the left, in order to delegitimize Netanyahu as a...
Does that include America's support in the Six-Day War? Because I keep hearing from lefties that Israel didn't win that on their own. They won because they were backed by the US and EU. It was 1966 when France stopped selling them weapons, and then I think the US started to sell them weapons. Israel won the Six-Day War mainly on their own. I think they were buying some US weapons at that point, but like massive US support, nothing compared to what the Arab states were getting from actual Soviet support. Like the Soviets were hardcore backing them, the Arab countries in that conflict. I think that the big difference was Israel took all of its military shit very, 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 very seriously. When you see, like as we've done the historical reading, notice how like all the same names keep coming up. Moshe Dayan, Sharon, I think, or fuck. Sharon. You see like a lot of these military commanders, if I saw them on paper, I remember, but like all these military commanders keep coming up over and over and over and over again. Like Israel is constantly iterating on their battle doctrines. They're constantly iterating on their effectiveness in the field. Like they're doing this work. I think that the Arab states at this time, I don't know why the Jews were better at it. Maybe because a lot of them coming back from Europe were World War II fighters or something. I'm sure there's some early history there to learn. But the Arab nations, supposedly, according to the Wikipedia articles I read, I don't have in-depth analysis, but supposedly for Arab nations, they did a lot of promotion based on kind of like family names or based on who the coolest sunglasses. It wasn't very meritocratically based or based on merit. It was just like promotions of like whatever. So everything was just like very sloppy and shitty for a long time. It wasn't until after the humiliating defeat of the Six-Day War that especially Egypt started to take its shit, and I think Syria did as well. They started to take promotion and the actual establishment of real military doctrine more seriously, which is why they were arguably more successful in the Yom Kippur War than they were in the Six-Day War, right? But the Arab countries just weren't as good at fighting for some reason. I don't know why they had that culture of like cool promotion or whatever. I don't know. I'm not sure. Oh, and then also keep in mind too, okay? So for like a slightly more dimensional perspective, while I've said it's Arab countries versus Israel, that has been true, kind of, but it's also kind of not true, and that even though all of the Arabs kind of wanted Israel gone and they kind of wanted, to take over that land and everything, they were also still in competition with themselves as well. The Arab countries were constantly looking out amongst their own positions in the Arab world, right? A lot of Nasser's exploits in Egypt, or his attempts to close the Suez Canal and fight with the rest of the world, were because he wanted to be the leader of a united Arab world, or the different moves that King Hussein made were because he was trying to stay in good favor with other parts of the Arab world. So even though it's all like the Arab nations are kind of against Israel, they're also all kind of vying for their own interests at the same time as well. So they have very complicated and delicate political situations that they're trying to maneuver through as well. While in Israel, they don't have to worry about any of that. In Israel, it's all internal. It's us versus the world. We've got a clear enemy on the outside, and then we just need to iterate on our military doctrines and succeed. There might have been more internal Israeli strife that doesn't come up in the articles from 48 to, I don't know, the 90s or whatever, but
political public and to delegitimize the positions of Likud in the Israeli open political debate.
I remember Netanyahu.
Name one non-Western Arab countries who are competent fighting conventional wars. My history is spotty for sure in this part of the world, but my understanding is Iraq under Saddam Hussein had an incredibly fearsome military, and that Iran wasn't a pushover either. That those two countries were quite militarily powerful. No, I could be wrong on that, but I know that the Iraq-Iran war was insane. I'm pretty sure Iraq had like the largest force of like artillery, or like the third largest artillery tank force in the world. Maybe they had numbers. Maybe their battle doctrines weren't good though. So I'm not sure. He said Arab country. Oh, sorry, Persians. My bad. Fuck Iran. Then I guess Iraq, right? I think Iraq was supposed to be a decently militarily powerful country now. Not compared to Western militaries, though. Okay, you say Western militaries, but, and I'm not trying to do the American exceptionalism thing, but my understanding is, bro, I'm talking so much shit right now, okay? If there's like a battle expert, okay, feel free to tell me, okay? When it comes to combining, okay, so as fighting has gone on through history, okay, like lines of people running at each other with swords and spears, lines of people with archers behind them, people with guns and some artillery, right? This is stuff that most people can kind of manage. My understanding is that the United States military is probably, I think, the only military in the history of the world that not only has a capable fighting force and not only has insane technology, but the ability to utilize a vast amount of technology in the air, the land, and the sea, and to coordinate this between multiple disciplines among specialized and highly skilled people, and then to deploy these in a combat-ready and effective manner on the battlefield. That's not something that only the West can do. I think that's something that only the United States has ever done. I don't know if like even Britain or France have ever achieved like that level of total sky to sea, technology to skill set, military sophistication. I don't believe so. Like even when London and DC started working together, like in World War II for like bombing campaigns against Germany and shit, I think that mainly I thought that that was with like commanding of U.S. generals and everything. I could be wrong on that. I don't know, like early World War II maybe. Somebody said France is very good at this. Maybe, but I feel like in terms of like highly sophisticated utilization of tech and multiple doctrines, everything across the battlefield, the United States is really good at that. But yeah. No, Destiny, that's what Germany succeeded with in World War II. That's why the Blitzkrieg was successful. I don't know if that was successful as much due to German technology, more so that I think Hitler just trusted his generals a lot. He let them push independently, and I don't think the countries in Europe were like ready for that level of like aggression. And I think the German tech was pretty good. But again, these are insanely macro level takes. So I could be very, 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 very wrong on some of the underlying facts there. Somebody's bringing up like Napoleon is somewhat comparable. No. That's not what I'm. Wait, Napoleon was like Napoleon was like the year 1800, right? Hold on, fuck. Is my time period way off there? Hold on, I might be. Okay. I don't believe they had airplanes in the 1800s, right? Did they have fighter jets for when Napoleon was? Yeah. But I will say, actually, like for instance, in the Yom Kippur War, Israel did start to run into issues coordinating their air force and everything as well, right? They started to run into the issue where when the other side started to get heavy anti-air support from the Soviet Union, the first couple days of the Yom Kippur War were brutal. Israel was not performing well at all. They were losing a ton of planes. The anti-airship was incredibly difficult to deal with. They lost a lot of ground almost immediately. I think it was Dayan that told Golda Meir, the third temple is falling, that our country is about to be eliminated. So even for Israel, the coordination of all that different type I don't even know if Israel can do it, right? Yeah. And who they're often, yeah. Okay, a really big deal. Okay, we were getting to this. This is a really big deal. Is why did Yasser Arafat walk away from the Camp David summit? I don't think we got an answer to that. So, and I think that's what we're in the middle of here. Click the mic link. Destiny, it's the Israeli military porn propaganda time. No, we're not doing that. Shut the fuck up. We're not doing that. A lot of people keep acting like the military is magic special forces are their solution to dealing with Hamas. Yeah, my understanding is, okay, again, military people in chat, comment if I'm wrong, okay? Special forces are called special forces because they can accomplish with incredibly high proficiency, incredibly specialized tasks. That's why they're special forces. They can do very specialized tasks. I think that when people hear special forces, they think special forces are like hero unit normal people. So for instance, let's say there's an army of like 10,000 soldiers. I can either beat them with my 10,000 soldiers, or I can send 1,000 special forces and they'll beat the 10,000 soldiers. That's what special forces do. Special forces, like one special force soldier is like 50 to 100 normal soldiers. I think that's what people think of when they think of special forces, but that's not what special forces are. And there have been periods of time in history, probably Black Hawk Down is one of them, where special forces missions, not only have they gone horribly wrong, they've resulted in a huge number of deaths of enemy combatants. But yeah, special forces is like we think that Bin Laden is somewhere in Pakistan in a small fucking base. We're gonna send in a chopper at 2 a.m. and we're gonna fucking kill him before Pakistan even fucking knows we're there. That's like what the special forces do. Or the special forces are like, there's a Somali pirate ship that has a hostage, and we're gonna put 3 snipers on the back of this deck, and we're gonna all 3 fire at the exact same time to kill every single hostage taker simultaneously. That's what the special forces do. The special forces are, or some crazy evac or ill or something like that, right? Special forces are not like there's an incoming army of 100,000 people, and now we stand at the door of defeat or on the precipice of doom, but we have 100 special forces soldiers that can defeat 100,000 army. That's not what special forces do. That's my understanding. Yeah, but. So the idea, for instance, of sending special forces into the Gaza Strip to do anything just doesn't make a lot of sense, because the goal is to kill all of Hamas or destroy that organization, not to just assassinate 1 or 2 leaders, right? After Black Hawk Down, I don't think anyone is ever sending special forces into an urban area again if they can avoid it. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. People think it means an army of Rambos. Basically, it's like a bunch of Sylvester Stallones, yeah. Or Master Chiefs. Also, yeah, I don't even know if special forces can run covert ops in the most densely populated city in the world. I don't even know what the fuck are they supposed to do. Is it like ghillie suits and you just crawl around like it's Assassin's Creed and nobody sees you? Or, yeah. Any opinions on this assassination, the impact of Oslo Accords because of this, etc.? Well, obviously the assassination was tragic and really, really bad, but yeah, I don't know what other, yeah. Okay. What is this? If based on the numbers, more Germans died in World War II than Brits, does that mean British were wrong in World War II? Oh no. There's no way he said this. Hold on.
Attempting to kill terrorists and civilian casualties are a cost of war. That is just a reality of life. During World War II, there were 70,000 Brits who died during the Blitz bombing, and there were 2 million Germans who died, civilians who died during World War II. And I don't see a lot of monuments in Britain.
Wait, okay, that's true.
Because of the 2 million civilians who died in Germany. The costs of war are brutal, they're terrible, they're horrifying. There's a vast difference in moral scope between deliberately going into a civilian area and murdering everyone you can find and trying to kill a terrorist who is deliberately hiding beneath a civilian area, hiding their rockets in civilian areas, starving their own people. And there is a vast difference. Okay, so let me, now I can test my question if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm gonna do a quick thing here, okay? Somebody in Kick Chat said, why do you think people are so keen on offering Muslim countries the utmost charity for their barbaric acts, such as beheading babies? To them, when it matters, to them it matters that they only beheaded a smaller number of babies, but when Israeli airstrikes at Hamas target, if any civilians are hurt, they're interpreted in the worst possible way. It's an optics thing, but it's been bugging me since the conflict started. Oh God, I hope I'm not turning to Jordan Peterson. I'm trying so hard not to turn into Jordan Peterson, okay? It might be a bit of Marxist influence where when you analyze things through the lens of oppressor and oppressee, what happens is you draw different moral justifications or draw different moral standards for the oppressed than you do for the oppressors. That's, I think, one of the big issues that you run into is when you're obsessively viewing things through the lens of colonial versus settled, or native versus, foreign invader. You draw a whole different set of moral standards for one side than the other, which I think is wrong, right? You should always be holding yourself to a set of moral standards. These don't change based on your relationship with an oppressor or oppressee. But I believe that people on the left have been doing that, basically, right? Yeah.
Okay, so now I can test my question if you don't mind. So my question is, do you believe that there is a moral difference between Hamas going into, for example, Kfar Aza and murdering entire families, and Israel attempting to target terrorists and accidentally hitting civilians?
There is a difference. There is a difference. And you can cite things. Who brought it up yesterday? Somebody brought up that March of Return. Because the counter argument to Ben Shapiro is there are times when the IDF does do things that are arguably similar-ish. It's approaching at least that third intifada, right? The October 7th attacks. And it seems like this would actually be a pretty good example of that, right? Basically, you got a ton of people protesting in Gaza. Now, the IDF claimed, well, they started throwing rocks and shit at us, and then they started shooting and killing people, but I think it was like it was like was it around 200 people shot and killed? 223 killed, 9,204 injured. For IDF soldiers on this fence, just like shooting into Palestinian protesters, right? This would be a better thing for her, I don't know what she's about to bring up, to pivot to, than to try to justify the October 7th attacks and say that's the same thing as when Israel bombs Gaza or Hamas. That's not a good comparison. We'll see what she says, okay?
Israel is effectively doing the same because Gaza is the most...
Don't say open-air prison. She's going to say they're doing the same. Gaza's open-air prison. They're all oppressed. Blah, blah. Oh, no. Okay.
Effectively doing the same because Gaza is the most densely populated region in the world. There are 15,000 people per square mile.
So does Hamas get immunity because they're there? So Hamas gets...
Ben should let her finish. Let her finish her point. Take notes. Write it down. Let her finish her point.
Israel has killed 3,500...
And then we do the numbers argument, which is dog shit.
Your logic is that if you're a terrorist group located in a densely populated community, you hide behind civilians, you're never immune.
Where are the children meant to go?
This is the answer. He's asking again. I've never heard somebody on the left address this topic. What are you supposed to do about Hamas when they hide amongst civilians? Destiny, that March they were trying to cross the border into Israel. Hold on, were they? I thought it was just protests. Fuck, hold on, did I fuck this up? A series of demonstrations held each Friday in the Gaza Strip near the Gaza-Israel border from the 30th of March to the 27th of December. The demonstration demanded that the Palestinian refugees must be allowed to return to lands they displaced from what is now Israel. They protested against Israel land air and sea blockade. The five demonstrations organized and the initiative was soon endorsed by Hamas, and it to last only from the 30th of March to the 15th of May, but the demonstration continued for almost 18 months till Hamas announced on 27th of December that it would be postponed. Groups consisting mainly of young men approached the fence and committed acts of violence directed towards the Israeli side. Israeli officials said the demonstration was used by Hamas as cover for launching attacks against Israel. I wonder what attacks were launched. This is one where I'm going to have to read. Oh no. More stuff. A firebomb kite launched from Gaza caused a large forest fire in the Be'eri forest, burning dozens of dunams of woodland. 10 firefighters teams toiled to exchange. Okay, sorry, hold on. I'm trying to eat some Palestinian propaganda, okay? Don't make me. Some of them burned tires in the hopes the smoke would provide cover for saboteurs to destroy and cross the border fence and threw grenades, pipe bombs, and stones at Israeli troops. The IDF used new small remote-controlled aircraft with knives on their wings to counter incendiary kites launched from Gaza, downing more than 40 kites. Palestinians broke into the Kerem Shalom border crossing. Okay, never mind. Forgot what I just said. Me. I shouldn't even try to steal that guy's argument. Never mind. Okay, I have to do more reading of that. Forget I've ever mentioned anything relating to... Forget I mentioned anything related to that. Never mind. Listen. Okay? Stop. Okay. I just forgot I tried, okay? You can't say I didn't try to do Palestinian propaganda, okay? You guys.
Okay. That's why I mentioned okay. Your logic is...
Sorry, since 2005, 23
I hate these arguments. What does she even know anything about? Let me do a little bit of racisms here, okay? I hate it when people like have is this considered hijab, or is it a different thing when it's a larger thing, right? And I feel like people look at these people like, oh, they must have like a lot of credibility. They must have a lot of authority on this particular topic. But then they wheel out like the whitest, most leftist, most 19-year-old college student arguments ever. Like, there are better arguments you can use against the indefinite like militarization, occupation, whatever the you want to call it, of like Gaza and West Bank, rather than like 23 out of 24 deaths, more deaths on Palestine side, more deaths, and Israel kills more people. Like, yeah, we've heard it like a million times. You're not getting any further with this argument. You're not.
I don't see any moral equivalency there. It's clearly unjust what the IDF has been doing to the Palestinians, because there's a vast disparity between the number of Palestinians being killed and the number of Israelis.
I mean, I would certainly.
Wait, is it really hijab when it's this? I thought okay, yeah. There's like 7 different names for different types of garments covering garments, but this might just be hijab, okay. Destiny, explain how more deaths argument is bad. Because it doesn't matter where more deaths occur. What matters is where the provocation happens. Provocation is what grants moral authority. That's recognized on a personal level. That's recognized on an international level. Provocation is what gives you moral authority, right? That's why people argue that things like preemptive wars are really bad, right? It was one of the things that Israel worried about. It's one of the biggest controversies about the 6-Day War in 67. 76. Hold on. I always restate the date, so I make sure I'm not fucking dates up. 6-Day War in 67, yes, okay, is whether or not the preemptive strike was acceptable, right? It was one of the biggest reasons why people will debate like Pearl Harbor, arguably, for whether or not that was a terrorist attack, I've heard. This is a huge part about our military or international doctrine related to Iraq, right? Was the United States going in and having a preemptive war because we think they're on their way to military weapons, right? Preemptive strikes, the reason why preemptive strikes are scary is because it's hard to feel moral support for somebody that is seen as the provocateur. The number of deaths and all that shit don't really matter that much past that point, right? If 5 men walked in and were trying to beat the shit out of or rape like a woman and she ends up killing all 5, nobody's going to look at that situation and be like, well, it was her. No one died on her side. 5 deaths on the other side? That's really bad. No, that's just not how it works. Yeah.
I'm just asking you, if based on the numbers, more Germans died than Brits in World War II, did that mean that the British were wrong in World War II? Because they did. Many more Germans died than Brits.
I don't know how Ben is going to say this stupid quote. It seems like Ben already acknowledged that Britain wasn't bombing civilians. It seems like he already acknowledged they did. Is it like a misquote, or I'm so curious how this is going to come up. Hold on.
Based on the numbers, that means that Britain was wrong in World War II.
Britain wasn't bombing civilians.
Oh. Yikes. What? I'm trying to see if I can give her a hyper nuanced reading of history. London must have been involved in like the Dresden bombings and shit, right? Or is that because these were some of the most violent bombings of the entire World War II campaign? Were they? Okay. This is a joint British and American aerial bombing attack of the city of Dresden, the capital of the German state of Saxony during World War II. Up to 25,000 people were killed. This was a massive bombing campaign. I'm pretty sure German sides will say more. I think they'll say more than this, but problem is that rape example is literally how people are viewing 10-7. If they subjectively think S/V is breaking oppression, leftists don't care. Sure. Maybe she means there were no German civilians, only Nazis. Based. This is a wild statement, okay? Everybody was bombing civilians in World War II. The Allies were not exempt from that. Destiny, is that really fair? Was World War II not considered a total war scenario? No. You can make arguments for the bombing of these cities, and arguments were made for it. right? That these were massive cities, military infrastructure was there, transportation, trains, soldier housing, production and manufacture of goods. This is why the arguments were made for bombing places like Tokyo, or all of the large cities that were bombed during World War II, right? This is where these this is where the arguments come from, right? That these become military targets because the entire country and the massive cities are involved in the manufacturing of the war machine, right? Or the upkeep of the war machine. But I'm sorry, hold on. I'm so curious what is the audience response to that statement? Overy estimated in 2014 that in all, about 353,000 civilians were killed by Allied bombing raids against German cities.
Because they did. Many more Germans died than numbers. Based on the numbers, that means that Britain was wrong in World War II.
Britain wasn't bombing civilians.
Okay, yeah, that's a wildly crazy statement to make. And that shows a comical level of understanding of World War II, which is funny too, because I'm making a lot of assumptions that she's like some basically like super leftist person or whatever. The fact that you would think would give that much credence, I feel like my mom might even say something like that, like we never bombed civilians in World War II. That was only the Nazis and the Japanese when they surprise attacked us in Pearl Harbor. That was a civilian. Pearl Harbor was mainly civilians. That sounds like some shit my mom would say.
You should talk to people in Dresden.
Oh, and then Shapiro brings up Dresden, which is probably the go-to example, yeah.
Civilians, take 233 of them in the last count, captured into tunnels. It is not a just war to obliterate them.
Israel's been killing civilians for the past 75 years, and there was no headlines about it, and there was nobody said that the Palestinians were
Israel does not kill civilians. Palestinian terrorists do. If Israel was down its guns tomorrow, there would be a second Holocaust. If the Palestinians put down their guns tomorrow, there would be a Palestinian state. That is the reality. And let me ask you this.
They don't even know the good arguments. In my opinion, the best argument is, what are Palestinians supposed to do, right? Because the status quo favors Israel, and the status quo favors eventually either the annexation of the Palestinian territory or the total expulsion of Palestinians from Palestinian territory. That's what the status quo favors, right? Now, obviously, terrorism is horrible, but if the Palestinians just chill and do nothing, they're not any closer to a Palestinian state than anything else. Whereas maybe with terror attacks they stir up enough, right? These are like the Steelman arguments of terror attacks. Yeah. Destiny, what telehealth provider did you use for your ADHD diagnosis? Honestly, I just called your mom and I told her if she gives me Vyvanse, I can f her for 10 hours straight. She gave me 100 pills.
I'm just going to ask you the last question. Same question I asked her. Which part of Palestine is occupied?
The entirety of Palestine.
I appreciate you expressing your full genocidal intent.
Oh, that was a good question from Ben. Okay, so Ben knows at least enough about this conflict to know that. When people, remember, this is so important. You have to call this out and you've got to talk when people bring this up. When people talk about Palestine is occupied, that Israel occupies Palestine, in a way, that can be a big dog whistle. When people say that Palestine is occupied, they don't always just mean the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. They mean all of the Near East, or all of historic Palestine. They mean that entire area, that Israel is an occupation. That's important to call out when people say that, because it gives you, not to say that they automatically have no arguments, but it's good to put a pin on where exactly they stand, yeah. Hijab covers hair, niqab covers face, burqa covers both. Gotcha.
I appreciate you expressing your full genocidal intent for the Jewish people living in the world.
And then Ben should just say, what about every single Arab state that treated Jewish people as second-class citizens in some way or another throughout the entirety of the Middle East? Why would I believe that Arabs can live with Jews peacefully when they haven't done it in Arab-majority states? Why would I expect that to change for Israel now? I think that's the Ben response. And then the Arab response would be, those Jews did live peacefully in those states. It wasn't unpeaceful until Israel provoked every Arab state in the Middle East by expelling over 700,000 Arab Palestinians from their lands, which understandably caused tensions to rise in all those other Arab countries. But prior to that, they'd been doing okay, I think. Not great, but and then the counter to that would be, well, why would you hold Jewish people in other countries responsible for Israeli citizens in another country? Because why should they all be held accountable just because the Israeli people happen to be Jews, unless there is some actual anti-Semitism involved, right? And then you probably go back and forth that for a while. Fuck, Jesus, fuck this. Okay, all right, don't care. All right. Okay. All right, we need to, we're not making progress today, okay? At the beginning of the lefty arc, it seemed reductive, but it really seems like every lefty opinion can be reduced to US/West bad. Do you think that still applies? Yes, absolutely, yeah.